You are listening to the Manument Podcast. My name is Casey, and I'm here with my buddy Glenn Johnson, investment advisor and founder of Jabez Financial right here in the Uncasville area. There is a lot of noise out there right now, so if the market feels confusing right now, please know that you're not alone. And we've got investment manager Charles Bobrinskoy telling CNBC that one emotion seems to be driving a lot of investors right now. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, at any given time, there are times in which people are overly greedy or overly fearful. And I think right now it's absolutely the case that we're in overly greedy mode. There is FOMO all over this market. And the indicators that people talk about, whether it's your cab driver asking you about his latest AI wins, or it's one of your kids telling you got to get with it and invest more in technology, all of these things tend to be signs of euphoria, and it's never good to be buying when everybody's buying.
But the thing is, Glenn, nobody wants to feel like they're just sitting on the sidelines. So I'm wondering how you help people in retirement or people that are close to retirement benefit from the market without letting that fear of missing out, that FOMO, drive their decision. What's your approach?
Oh, it's funny. He also mentioned in there what drives the market, and there's little meters on that. Either you're saying they could be overly greedy or overly fearful. Well, which one of those is good?
Mm-hmm.
Neither. We're not to be greedy at all. We shouldn't be fearful at all. This is where we want to be making wise decisions, and that fear of missing out, that's a natural feeling. You know what? In fact, I just thought of this one. This week, my wife was saying how she's like, I've got this free this free appetizer for my birthday at Texas Roadhouse. And I was saying, look,
sign me up. Can I come, guys?
Right. But, we don't have the time to go this week, and it's going to expire, and she's going to miss it. And she was kind of disappointed. I'm like, it's an appetizer. We can buy any appetizer we want.
Hey, I'm with her. Let's get that coupon, put it to good use.
But it's still there. And, that's because really, nobody wants to miss out on good things. And people don't want to miss out on the financial wins and all the gains that the market has to offer. But why is it that when we think of the fear of missing out, the thing that comes to mind is missing out on something that you want?
Mm-hmm.
For example, have you ever gotten stuck at a red light or got a flat tire when you were already running a few minutes behind?
Mm-hmm.
And then later find out that you just missed being in a major car accident. Yeah, you missed out on being right on time, but you also missed out on being in that major accident.
Well, that's an interesting way to look at it, because I think we always focus on what we might be missing, but we rarely stop to think about what we might be avoiding. Sometimes the things we don't get are actually kind of protecting us, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, shoot, there's a lot of things I wanted when I was a little kid, and it's a good thing I didn't get them.
Yeah, that tattoo we wanted to get when we were 18. Show some independence, some authority.
Exactly. And that's why there's some things we just want to miss out on. And sometimes it can be a guardian angel. It can be a word from God, or maybe it can be some good advice from a friend that changes our plans at the last moment, that spares us from catastrophe. I'm reminded of that story about a flood's coming, and a guy wants to, he's being told that he needs to leave his house. There's a flood coming. It's time to bail out, kind of like when Katrina hit New Orleans. And although he was warned, he says, you know what? I'm going to stick around because God's going to save me. And eventually, a city bus comes by and says, hey, get on the bus. We got to leave. He's like, oh, no, I'm good. God's going to save me. Now the roads are gone. There's nothing but water, and a boat comes by, and he asks the guy, hey, get in the boat. Let's go. We got to get out of here. He's like, no. That's all right. God's going to save me. And eventually the guy's standing on his roof. A helicopter comes by, drops him a rope and says, get in the helicopter. He's like, no, God's going to save me. And eventually the guy drowns, gets to heaven. And he says, God, why didn't you save me? He said, you kidding? I sent a bus, a boat, and a helicopter. So we've got to take these warnings. We got to take these things, and sometimes it's that obvious that something is coming, and we are warned. And other times it's not so obvious, but the danger is still there. And where it comes to investing and managing your retirement account, we can't just rely on news headlines, talking heads, or hedge fund managers for that matter to help us make such critical decisions financially. It requires some common sense.
And sadly, I think that's where a lot of people can get themselves into trouble, because when everyone around you seems to be making money, common sense can absolutely get drowned out by emotion. But your point is that sometimes missing out is not really missing out at all. Sometimes it's protection. So I'm curious how this mindset, Glenn, applies when people are looking specifically at their investments.
Well, let's take a common sense approach that isn't always that common anymore. But so, like, why would you assume taking an investment risk in order to receive a 2.5% return? That just doesn't make sense. But when you look at the Shriller PE ratio over the S&P 500, it's over 40 right now on the S&P 500. So that's exactly what people are doing. They're buying stock. They're assuming investment risk for a 2.5% earnings. It just doesn't make sustainable sense. So what helps my clients see this clearly is I have a program here in the office that I have that clearly illustrates how drastically things change when you go from putting money into the market year after year as you're saving to when you're withdrawing money consistently during your retirement. The program that I have here, it shows how a bad year in the market early on in retirement can be absolutely devastating for the remainder of the retirement years. So by using this, my clients are able to miss out on the things that they need to avoid, while positioning themselves in the meantime greatly to prosper from the good things that are to come.
Glenn, we talk a lot about panic on this show and really the detriment that panic can have on a retirement portfolio when investors are acting due to panic. And I'm wondering if you find that FOMO can be just as dangerous as panic.
It really is. It really is, because that's what it's funny. You just look at what the masses of society are doing. And we've heard this. We've all heard this. You look at what the masses of society are doing and just do the opposite. Just don't participate and you'll be way better off. Mm-hmm. I look at it this way. I mean, that can be financially or otherwise. Like, I remember when I was growing up, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I didn't have any friends that drank alcohol, right?
Well, that's good. That's a great thing.
Yeah, that's true. But then one by one, I started to notice, wow, this person started to drink. This one tried smoking. This one tried marijuana or whatever. They were doing all these things. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like everybody was doing that. But I didn't. Mm-hmm. That's why I say it's a fun fact. I've never had a drink of alcohol in my whole life. I never held a lit cigarette. I've never done any of those things. But I didn't. So, and the reason for that is I didn't participate in what the masses of society were doing. And if I live in such a way, I remember a mentor of mine told me this. He said, Glenn, if you live the way most people don't live, if you do what most people aren't willing to do, you will live the way most people can't. We've got to be able to separate ourselves from what the herds and the masses of society are doing so that we can actually make better decisions and live a far superior life afterward.
I want to ask you this too, as we're talking about this idea of FOMO, this fear of missing out. Is FOMO especially risky for retirees because they don't have the same amount of time to recover from a major mistake that they make acting out of FOMO, as opposed to, let's say somebody in their 30s or 40s that is acting because of FOMO who maybe has a little bit more time to recover? Do retirees need to be especially aware of FOMO?
Of course they do. Of course they do, especially because they've got the last 18 years of the market that's done exceptionally well. Yeah. And who would want to keep that gravy train going? So yes, they don't want to miss out on those gains, especially when they've got more invested, and a double-digit return produces even that much more money. I mean, it actually becomes harder to back off that risk when you see that the trajectory that it's been on for so long. But if you're making any kind of fear-based decision, whether it's fear of missing out or fear of anything for that matter, that decision really needs to be looked at closely, because we don't want fear to be a component of any of our decisions. We want our decisions to be based upon what's right and wrong, what makes logical sense. We don't want to have our emotions of fear or greed influencing any of our financial decisions. So these are some conversations I'd love to have with you. If you give us a call, come into the office and we'll have a conversation about it. And what's interesting is if you have a fear of missing out, of saying, I know I need to back off on my risk exposure, but I think there's still some more room where it could go up a little bit more, and I want to make sure I capture that. Or, you know what, I've had it. I can't take the volatility anymore, and I need to get out. Whatever it is, I'd like to have a conversation about it. And when we take a sensible approach and look at the facts, when we make decisions based upon facts and not on feelings financially, once you make those wise decisions, interestingly enough, you end up feeling a whole lot better afterward. So I invite you to give us a call and come into the office. We'll have a conversation. Give us a call at 860-288-9977. And let's have a conversation about what you would like your financial future to look like.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Manument Podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And we will see you next time. Take care.
Investment advisory services offered through Jabez Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Glenn Johnson, Connecticut Insurance, license number 4628409. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Jabez Financial, LLC. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Jabez Financial, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jabez Financial, LLC is licensed in your state, please call 860-390-0093.